Hello, my name is Gary Spracklen and I am Director of Digital Learning and Innovation at the Isle of Portland Aldridge Community Academy. This is a recording of a session that took place on Tuesday the 27th of November 2012 and is an entry-level introduction to Google Docs. This is our second IPACA Engage, Innovate and Inspire CPD session. If you missed last week's and you'd like to know more, it's available on the YouTube channel, which I'll put an address up at the end. Fantastic, well done.
Very good.
And this session today will be on YouTube afterwards as well. So if I go too fast, or if there's anything you want to go back and look at, it's all going to be on YouTube afterwards to watch back again and again if you so wish. So our session tonight is on Google Docs. It's an entry-level introduction really for people that have never heard of it before or have used it a little bit and would like to know more. If anything that I'm saying is too basic level, please don't feel that I'll be offended if you get up and walk out. That's fine. You know, you're here to, you're here in your own time. You're here to work and learn. And if you're not learning, then go and use your time elsewhere, kind of thing. So tonight we're going to look at three basic things: what, why, and most importantly, how can we use Google Docs, both for our own professional use and in the classroom. I'm going to share some examples with you, and then there's also going to be time to have an explore afterwards if you bought your own device. If not, I'm sure there's ones around that we can use or share, etc. And even if we just talk about how we can use them and apply them more. One important development that's not really put through in the presentation tonight is that as an academy, IPACA are moving across to Google Apps for Education. Google Apps for Education basically for you means that you'll be able to use your normal IPACA email login to log into all of Google's services. So you won't have to have a home account to access Google Docs. At this moment tonight and having a go on it, you will have to use a home account to have a go on Google Docs because we've yet to migrate everything across. But in the next coming weeks, everything's going to be moved across and you'll be getting information about that in campuses. But it's quite exciting because it enables us to have one single sign-on that you can use across lots of services. So instead of having to remember all different usernames and passwords of different things, the mail, the Google Docs, the Google Drive, if you want to use things like wikis and blogs from Google, they'll all work under one sign-in. You won't have to remember lots of different usernames and passwords. So it simplifies the whole process. It also means that collectively we can work collaboratively better because you'll instantly know to invite someone else into your document, for example. We'll look at how to do that later on because you'll know their email address is their IPACA email address. So it all works, simply together, and it's the same for working with students. If you can invite the students by their email addresses. At the moment, it's just pupils at Royal Manor that have got their own email addresses, but we will be implementing that into especially Key Stage 2 in the next few months. So that will happen, and it's all coming on board really. So there's three basic things we're looking at tonight: what, why, and how. So the first of those is what. What is Google Docs? What and where does it come from, how long has it been around, etc. And instead of me giving a long introduction, I quite like using videos from different places. You may have seen if you watched a video last week that I like to use different sort of visual stimulus. So this is a video from a great animation team called Common Craft. They do paper animation about what Google Docs is all about.
Home is where we keep the things we need. Whether it's a lawnmower or a coffee pot, it has a home in our lives. Of course, our documents are no different. For years, they lived on our computers. Each person has their own computer-based home for documents. When we need to share a document, we usually attach it to an email and send it to a friend's or coworker's computer home. Here's the problem. When you attach a document to an email, copies are created. Consider this. If you send an email attachment to 3 people, the same document will exist in 4 different places. That's a problem. There's a better way, and it means saying goodbye to messy email attachments. This new kind of home isn't on your computer, it's on the internet. And that makes sharing and collaborating on documents much easier and gives you full control over who can see and access your documents. Here's the basic idea. Instead of attaching a document to an email, let's switch it around and look at how we can attach an email address to a document. Meet Sam. Sam is the editor of a neighborhood newsletter called the Oak Tree View. She works with local writers who would like to publish articles in the newsletter. Sam loves her job, but often feels frustrated when time is wasted managing all the articles. It's a familiar problem. Each month, writers send her draft articles as email attachments. She reviews them and sends them back with comments. One article might create 6 different versions of the same file, not to mention countless emails. Sam often feels buried by all the email attachments. She finds it hard to keep track of all the versions being sent to her from the writers. As the deadline looms, frustration rises. Something has to give. Sam decides to try something new, Google Docs. Here's what happens. First, she visits the Google Docs page and creates a free Google account. She logs in, and because some articles were already written, she uploads the current drafts right from her computer. With a snap, Google Docs turns the offline articles into online versions. Now, all she needs to do is invite the writers to collaborate on the documents. Here's how. She clicks Share, inserts email addresses, and clicks Invite Collaborators. Google Docs sends the writers an email with a secure link directly to her document. One click, and they can edit and save the document online. This means that when Julie edits the document, Sam sees the changes immediately. Since there's only one document, there is never confusion about updates or versions. It's all saved, along with the past versions, on the website. For the first time, the articles all have a home, a single place for organizing and editing that is accessible from any computer with internet access. Problem solved. What's really cool is that this problem isn't just solved for documents, but also spreadsheets and presentations. All three can now have a secure home on the web that works exactly like Sam's documents. Sam is relieved. Without having to deal with attachments, multiple versions, and all that clutter, she can be an editor instead of a document master. And for the next newsletter, not a single email attachment is sent, and Sam beats the deadline by a week. Sharing documents made simple, and all for free. Google Docs
so
rocks.
hopefully a really basic and complete overview of what Google Docs is all about. Let's just take it from a practical level though. It's reiterating what's in the video there. It's about having one document in one place and then inviting who you want to contribute on that. This is great for sort of policy writing, or if you're writing a document, across, for our circumstances, we could be writing a document across different campuses that then needs to be submitted to somewhere. And instead of having so many different email versions going around, we can have that one central place where the document's stored and it's edited. Unlike systems in the past, I'm going to say some technical words now, just ignore them if you don't know what they mean, but things like SharePoint and virtual learning environments where everything was stored in one place, which was great, but people could take it down, work on it, then upload it, and only one person could check it out at a time, which doesn't really help collaboration, because you could both be sitting at home working on the same document at the same time with Google Docs, which other systems do not allow. And you can literally, you'll see in a minute, see people writing as you're writing if you choose to invite them. So children love that because it's really exciting. I used this a couple of years ago in my Year 2 class. We were writing index pages for a book, and we were all sitting with a group of 7 doing it, and they're all sat next to each other. And they were looking through their book and deciding what would go in their index. And because they were finding things at the same time, sometimes they'd find that a child was writing about dinosaurs before they were, and they then have to just have the page number after, because it's from a different page. There's this instant collaboration on a document together, and I think that's really exciting. And that kind of leads us now to why do we use Google Docs? Why do we use it in an education setting? And I found this great video. It's a couple of years old, so some of the shots are old kind of Google Docs, and things have changed now. Google Docs is no longer actually called Google Docs anymore. It's part of Google Drive, but it's essentially the same thing. It's just rebranded, really. But this was a great video showing how one college, I think this is, uses this in America.
The biggest thing with Docs is that it's accessible 24/7, 365.
All my docs are right there, no matter what machine or what station I'm on.
We're able to incorporate and integrate the Google apps and the Google Docs into pretty much everything we do in the school.
Google Docs has really given my students control over their own education to a higher degree than they've ever had before.
With Google Docs, I can write it on the Google document at home, open it up on my email here, then finish it up.
Instead of bothering about emailing documents back and forth, I'm just okay, I can just save it, and I'm good to go from Hong Kong, from India, wherever I am.
One student isn't just sitting in front of the computer and the rest are looking over their shoulder. Now finally all the students are able to participate in one particular assignment.
One student began a poem, and then there were 2 other students that actually ended up finishing the poem. It was beautiful.
I looked at my Google Docs and I saw that one of the poems was being written by 2 kids at the very same time, at 11 o'clock at night. To me, that means that learning is happening at all times of the day.
Recently we had students in Virginia and Alaska talking about hunting together. The Alaska students looked at some New York City stories and they didn't quite get it because they had no idea what a subway was.
I thought it was really easy how you could talk between people, because I know if we have an essay, it'd be kind of fun to get another opinion on it before you turn it
in.
It would be pretty similar to just sitting next to someone and working on it together, but you could be in your own houses.
Exactly.
We'll work on a major writing piece in class and we'll go through the writing process, brainstorm, draft, revise, edit, publish, and all that is done on one Google document.
As a teacher, that gives me the opportunity to see which students are doing the lion's share of the work.
You want to be able to see the growth in the student writing, and do they really take the comments that are on the page from the teacher and then apply those back into the work.
I always tell my students that my idea is perfect until somebody else reads it. And when I interact with somebody else with my idea, the idea becomes better. And I think Google Docs helps us do that.
The benefit of using Google Docs, Google Presentations, spreadsheet is it allows the students really to publish and to become publishers on a worldwide level.
It's no longer, I'm doing this to get the points needed for the grade, and the teacher's the only one that's going to see it. I'm now publishing for my peers, I'm publishing for parents.
It raises the level of their work because they begin to understand how many people are reading what they've done, and they want it to be the best they can do.
We were gathering together some college recommendations. How long is it going to take to pass the piece of paper around the room? One of the teachers sitting at the table said, "This is an obvious Google Docs. We can't do this any other way."
We had a technology open house last week. Let's say there's 10 people who are helping to plan different phases of that open house. We'll open up a Google document and we will enter in what we've done and what steps we've taken, questions we have for each other, and it doesn't require endless amounts of meetings. In fact, it requires 0 meetings.
Kids who were totally divested from learning, not really interested in my class at all, come in every day and they're really excited to get on the laptops. It's just like, it makes the lesson a lot more interactive, and it's definitely improved learning.
If you learn to use Google Docs, they'll make your classroom more efficient, you save time, and you can do the art of teaching better than the fussing factors of teaching.
I can't even fathom what we were doing at this time last year without the communication, without the collaboration, and without the ease of saving that Google Docs have offered us so far. So far, I say, because I have no idea what's coming next.
I think a few really key points there was the collaboration between students and teachers, and teachers and teachers, and students, and that wasn't just confined to an area. That was global. You know, they were communicating with people in different countries, different regions of America. You know, there was that full collaboration, and that's what Google Docs offers you in the same platform as if you're just using personally. You know, you can take a document that is very personal and it's complete. Everything is set to private to start off with, and then in a minute I'll show you how to change the settings. But everything starts private, everything starts to yourself, and then instantly with the press of a button you can slowly open it up to more people. You can invite people one at a time, or you can invite a group of people to come and look at it, and finally you can, if you want to, you can publish it on the web, you know, all from the one interface. So that document doesn't change, it's just the permissions that are attached to that document that change. So instantly you can see how it can grow, and you can share your work, you know, globally with people. I think the other really important point there was that it works on any device. It works on Windows, it works on Linux, it works on Mac computers, it works on all platforms. All you need is a browser. You do need a fairly up-to-date browser. People at Royal Manor found that last week when they were trying to access the feed. But you know, Firefox at Royal Manor works with it brilliantly. It works completely fine. And the other thing is, if you use an iPad, Safari will open it. It tends to struggle a bit on Safari. So, but if you download a free app called Google Drive, you can open and edit your documents completely fine with no problem at all. So Google Drive works really well. At the moment, the Google Drive app only supports word process editing, and it will view any other type of document that's been created using Google Docs. But it's very loud noises that eventually everything will come on board, and you'll be able to edit your presentations on an iPad in the same way you can on desktop. They're just trying to refine everything, I suppose. And a word processor is a lot easier because you've just got your keyboard to start really, opposed to dropping in different things. So that was one example of why it's used. This one's a much quicker and shorter example of how teachers are having fun with it, really. This is a primary example, and it shows the writing live, how it can look sometimes.
Hi, I'm Mr. Vlad. I'm a technology teacher in Mattawan, Michigan, and we're going to use Google Docs collaborative real-time tools to have a keyboarding race with our 5th graders. We created a document where 6 participants, having their own color, could have a little typing race with a well-known sentence, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. On your mark, get set, go. Our Google Docs demo.
So it just shows how live Google Docs is. It's completely there. If anyone else said it, you can see it happen. We use this in our last school to do SWOT analysis of subjects. At the end of the term, we sat down with our laptops and we spent 20 minutes, half an hour working on our own subject in the primary assessment. This is on our own subject. Well, what were our strengths and our weaknesses, opportunities and threats for our subject that we lead? But the problem with that is you've got a very, very small view. You've just got, unless you're going in and seeing other classes teach, you just know what's happening in your classroom. We can say the same for departments at secondary level. Do we always know what's happening in each classroom? And then, whereas if you can then invite contributors to that SWOT analysis to come in and say, oh, is this happening in your classroom? People can comment. They can say, oh, well, we do this a bit. We don't do it as often as we should do. And when there's that culture of openness and honesty, then we can really start developing and sharing what our weaknesses are and working on those and seeing to how we can improve those together. So, that's the why, and we kind of come to the most important bit, really, and how. How do we do this? How do we achieve it? What does it actually look like in practice? And the week before, I went up to IPACA, Brighton Aldridge Community Academy. There's lots of ACAs, isn't there? And I went there because Jane asked me to come up with the Aldridge Foundation and just share what I know about Google Docs, because as an organisation, the Aldridge Foundation themselves are looking at working collaboratively better together. And it's a great opportunity to tour the school and look at the resources, but also share with the Aldridge team how they can use it. And I made this video, which I hope is useful in sharing a kind of how to you today. Okay, so I'm here with Jane and we're going to give you a little demo, first of all, of Google Drive. Google Drive works in the same way as Dropbox or any other cloud storage systems. It enables you to have an online area where you can store documents and share them with others. And then the particular benefit of Google Drive over something like Dropbox is that it's got built-in tools to edit those documents. So you've got the Google Docs platform. So let's just share an example that Jane has shared with me. So I've got my drive here, and if I click on the left where it says shared with me, you'll see that I've got the document session which Jane shared with me on November the 9th, as it says here. If I click session, it will open it up. I can instantly see the live document that Jane's been working on. Gary will lead some interactive demonstration for about 30 minutes. Indeed I will, and indeed I will. I am looking forward to it. I can then add more. So I could leave a question here for Jane. I could say, Jane, is there anything in particular you would like me to share? Next time Jane logs on, she can see that and she can add to that. And it just so happens that Jane is alive now and she is on a iPad sitting next to me. Say hello, Jane.
Hello, hi.
And Jane can now edit that document. She's working on an iPad, and because we're both on together, we can see those changes as Jane types them in. But we can also, you'll see that there's a note there saying that it's Fuchs Portland that's editing the document. This is nice for tracking changes, etc. You don't have to be on the document at the same time. You can share the link with as many people as you want to, and you can also choose whether the people can just view the document or you give them permission to edit the document. This document is continuously being saved, so we don't need to click the save button. It is continually saved back to the shared drive. And of course this is fantastic because it's simple, it's easy, and it's completely free. Google gives you 5 GB of storage to get started. There are ways you can earn extra storage by recommending people, or alternatively you can purchase extra storage at a really reasonable rate. This is compared to Dropbox's storage, which is 2 GB for free. So it's a great starting point. On top of this, any documents that you create in Google Docs itself does not count towards your storage limit. So if you've uploaded a document from Microsoft Word into the cloud, that counts towards your storage. If you instead create it in Google Docs to start off with, that doesn't count towards your storage. And obviously you can see Google are trying to move you away here from using the generic Office software, but there's no reason why you can't export any of this back to Microsoft Word once you've edited it. It supports all range of file formats, PDF, Pages files from Mac, all sorts of different things. So there you can see Jane's added her comments. I can delete my original question if I wanted to. You know, you've got all the tools that you would expect from a general word processing tool, and we find it just really good to use, and simple and cheap. So hopefully that gives a good overview of how simple it is to use and how simple it is to get on. I've deliberately only shared the word processing today because in a couple of weeks' time we're going to do a sort of intermediate level where we're going to look at some more tools that you can use in Google Docs, but there's nothing to stop you going exploring them yourself before then. And the fantastic thing about everything with Google is that it all works in the same way. You know, the kind of permissions, whether you're using a document, whether you're using a spreadsheet, a presentation, or even when we start looking at building websites using Google, etc., everything works through a little button at the top right-hand corner, which is called Share. And until you press that button, it's private to you. So whatever you're creating is private until you press that button. And there's just a little video about that button.
Google Docs lets you create, collaborate, and share documents online. Each document on Google Docs has a unique web address where invited people can view or edit it. We've improved the way sharing works in Google Docs to make sharing your documents easier while giving you even more control. You can still share your docs with as many or as few people as you like. There are now 3 visibility options: public on the web, anyone with the link, and private. Documents start out as private. When you first create a doc, you are the only person with access to it. From there, you can give access to other people. Private is the best option for your own private documents, like a homework assignment or wedding guests. If you set your doc to the second option, anyone with the link, it's like an unlisted phone number. In the same way that anyone who knows an unlisted phone number can call it, anyone who knows the web address or URL of that doc can view it. And you can easily share the doc with others by sharing the link. For example, if you're a college professor and you want to share a syllabus and reading list with your students, you could put that info into a doc, set it to anyone with the link, and send your students the link in an email. The third option is public on the web. Set a doc to public if you want to make it publicly available to anyone. For example, you could create a flyer for a concert, save it as a public doc, post a link to it on your blog, and ask your friends to do the same. Public documents are automatically indexed by search engines like Google, so they may appear in search results as well. If you've chosen to make your doc accessible to anyone with the link or public on the web, you can also choose to allow anyone to edit the document. It's easy to change the visibility option on a doc at any time. Just click Share at the top right of any document. Click Change and choose a new option. You can also check your doc's visibility by looking next to the document title. If you're using Google Apps for your school or business, you can also share docs within your organization, and the default sharing options may be different depending on your organization's settings. So that's it, sharing that just works in Google Docs. To try it out, go to docs.google.com.
Exciting, that ability to be able to share it with the whole world and allow them to edit it as well, and what potential that could be, and obviously the safeguarding issues in doing that. But there's some things that there's been some fantastic examples of crowdsourced policies on, for example, e-safety, there was one a couple of years ago done, where a document literally was given blanks, and people were encouraged to write their own e-safety policy, and literally hundreds of thousands of people from around the world went on and contributed to it, and each improved the work as they went, and there was an amazing sense of collaboration and involvement and ownership over this policy that was eventually written. And I think that kind of avenue at a staff level is potentially really exciting, and how it can involve lots of different people. And obviously, if changes are made, then potentially you feel that you could lose something that you've put on there. All things can be traced back using the admin controls up to 30 days. So if you do give something out to people, for example, and it gets used or not used in the right way, we can pull it back to a previous version. So everything does get backed up for 30 days, and there are ways that we can go deeper with that as well, and that we will explore. Me and Simon will explore into the future, really. So really, that's what Google Docs is. There's an example of why we can use it, and ultimately how we can get on and use it. The simplest thing now for you guys to do is actually go and try, to go and log on and have a go. I realise some of you have got devices here tonight, some of you haven't, so if you want to do that, you can now, there's going to be time. If not, feel free to talk with people around you. I've got one last video that I think I'll show now that was kind of a conclusion for tonight, and then give you a chance, if you want to stay, want to have a go, have a play, talk with people, then you can, there's plenty of time. If not, if you feel free to leave, it's up to you really. I don't want to keep people here longer than they want to be here really. So I'll just put this slide up, which was the time to explore. And then finally, my to finish. This, by the way, is something called VideoScript. If you've got an iPad, you can download it for $2.99, and it's just a way of animating the presentations in a slightly different way. There's also a desktop version it works out a fair bit more expensive, but it's a nice bit of fun. So to finish, I just want to share with you, because Google Docs is just one small element of the Google ecosystem. I just want to share you an exciting example of how another part, Google Plus, has been used in a really inspiring way. Google Plus is not related to Google Docs as such, so it's nothing about what we covered tonight, but I think this is just a really powerful video to end on.
Jacmel is a beautiful town in southeastern Haiti. We have beautiful way to do things, but the world, they don't see our country like that. I want to be a filmmaker, to make people see Haiti in a different way.
When I started Ghetto Film School, I wanted young people from the South Bronx to have a place to share their work and tell their story. For about 12 years, we've been giving young people an opportunity to develop this voice and take those first steps to become a filmmaker. How could we replicate that with students all over the world?
My mother thinks we have no future in cinema, but I just want to be a filmmaker.
Les cinéastes, ça vraiment n'apporte pas quelque chose. Et surtout, Haïti, on est dans un pays sous-développé.
You've got this talent, and more importantly, you have this heart. How could we connect young filmmakers to people they can really learn from?
At the same time we were thinking about this, we learned about Hangouts and thought that might be the way. We got a great director together with students from every corner of the world, and we just went from there.
Welcome to Masterclass, a unique
I heard about the Masterclass, and I knew that I wanted to do it.
Oh, we just had someone join us. Can you hear us, Kaviana?
There was no electricity, but the laptop had power. So I take the flash on my face and I start talking.
My name is Katiana Jean-Julien. I am from Jacmel.
We're really glad to have you. We are very lucky to have Lee Daniels here with us. He's directed films like Precious, so you guys could pitch your story to Lee, and Lee could give you his notes.
My story is inspired by real events.
Everybody goes pitch their idea, but me, I was like this. Yeah.
You gotta come in owning your story. And I'm not gonna use the excuse of, we got a language barrier here either.
I was nervous because he was honest.
And last but not least, we have Katiana in Haiti.
The story is about 2 young
When I started pitching my idea, my voice was tremble, and after I did that, he said to me,
I want to direct that movie.
and yeah.
I think it's a very strong story, Katiana.
I felt so proud.
Vous songez histoire me raconter là? M'a fait film ça quand même.
I think she will be proud of me. Not today, but tomorrow, I think she will be proud. Yeah. Ou pas besoin de timide. OK? Bien. Action!
It's a great honor in a way to give people an opportunity to discover their talent from any corner of the world.
I'm Shira Mazouz from Israel.
I'm Fan, I'm calling from Spain.
I'm from Venezuela.
I'm from Egypt.
I'm from Ukraine.
Despite what people think about Haiti, I believe I can do this step by step. I'm moving closer to my dream.